and welcome everybody to That's Weird Stuff. It's a show where I share stories of the strange and bizarre, and then these three fellows have to decide aliens or not. So, in our last episode, we discussed the mystery of the Dyatlov Pass. This week, we discussed a case that has become known as the American Dyatlov Pass. Five men: Gary Mathias, age 25, Bill Sterling, 29, Jack Hewitt, 24, Ted Weir, 32, and Jack Madruga, age 30, lived in and around Yuba City. Mathias had struggled with drug addiction and schizophrenia after serving in the army. He moved to the area where he became friends with the other four men. The four others all had mild forms of learning disabilities and lived with their parents. The five men who were referred to as the boys by the community were fond of basketball and were part of a league of people, part of a league for people with disabilities. The friends were preparing to compete in a local tournament where the winners would win a trip to Los Angeles. The night before their tournament was to begin, February 24th, the boys decided to drive to Chico, California to watch a local basketball game. Jack Madruga drove the friends to Chico for the game in his Mercury Montego. Afterwards, they stopped at a downtown Chico convenience store to pick up snacks and milk for the return trip. The convenience store employee said that the men had arrived just before the 10 p.m. closing time. On the same night, a man named Joseph Shones was traveling up to his cabin in the Plumas National Forest, 70 miles from Chico, to check the snowpack before making to his cabin. Shones' car was trapped in the snow, and while trying to get to his car out, Shone began to experience signs of a heart attack. Shone retreated to his car, and after 6 hours and still suffering of pain, he noticed a car pull up and park behind him with their headlights on. Shone noticed a group of people that included a woman carrying a baby. Shone called out to the group, but they turned off their headlights and stopped talking. Later, he saw the lights of flashlights, but again, when he called out for help, the group turned out the lights and stopped talking. At one point during the night, Shone recalled a pickup truck driving up to his car before continuing up the path. In the morning, Shone's pain subsided enough for him to walk to a lodge for help. After receiving aid and being driven back to his home, Shone identified Jack's Mercury as being the car he had seen from that night. 2 days after that night, in a small town of Brownsville, California, about 30 miles from Shone's sighting, a store owner of a local convenience store reported seeing four men matching the boys' description arrived at the store in a red pickup truck. While two of the men had bought burritos and chocolate milk, the other two were outside using the telephone.
What are they, Joseph?
Got a yoo-hoo.
This was the last sighting of the men. After their parents had reported the men missing, police from Yuba County started searching for the group around the route to Chico. On February 28th, park ranger from Plumas National Forest reported that he had seen the Mercury and led investigators to the car. Inside, the police found wrappings from the snacks the men had bought and programs from the basketball game. The doors were unlocked and the windows were pulled up. The undercarriage of the car showed no signs of dents or mud scrapes despite being driven up a mountain road. There had been evidence that the car had become stuck in the snow, but not deep enough for five men to have pushed the car out. While the keys were missing, the police were able to hotwire the car and see that it was still running with a quarter tank of gas. The investigators were unable to search for the men for months because of the weather up there. On June 4th, a group of motorcyclists traveled to a trailer 20 miles from where the Mercury had been found. The windows of the trailer had been broken and a decaying body was found inside. The search for the men resumed, and two more bodies were found between the car and the trailer. These bodies were ravaged by scavengers, and autopsies concluded that they had died from hypothermia. 2 days later, Jack Hewitt's remains were found by his own father. Again, his cause of death was determined to be hypothermia. No trace of Gary Mathias has ever been found. The body in the trailer belonged to Ted Weir, and he was found to be wrapped in blankets from head to toe and surrounded by his belongings, with the exception of his shoes and a burned candle nearby. His cause of death was determined to be a combination of starvation and hypothermia. Baffling, heavy winter clothes were found in the trailer, along with matches and enough paper goods for kindling. In a nearby shed were enough rations for a year and a butane tank that would have heated the trailer. Some cans of open rations were found that were opened by a military can opener, suggesting that the other men were at one point in the trailer with Weir. Questions remain as to what had led the men to their fate. None of the men had been dressed for cold weather. Madruga was said to have hated the cold, and Sterling was said to have not been fond of the area where they were found. Hewitt's family had said that he hated phones, but he was reported to be the one in the phone booth at the Brownsville convenience store. Why had they left the car and were seen in another truck? While the group's fate remains a mystery, foul play is suspected in the disappearance. So, Michael, I'll go to you. Is this another case of the teenage Yetis striking again?
I'll go to someone else first. I'm confused.
Teenage Yetis is the name of that motorcyclist gang.
There was too much in that. I lost tracks of a lot of things.
Okay, Jared, did you want to comment?
First, Thomas, have you seen the 2-hour video that Wendigoon did?
Yeah, Wendigoon and Nexpo did. Yeah. Which is funny. I just watched them 2 days ago about this exact topic.
I don't think it's aliens. I think it's foul play. I don't know. That's all I got to say right now, but I'm going to say foul play. This is 100% not aliens to me.
Okay. Yeah. Thomas, in your opinion?
I agree with Jared about the foul play, not aliens. Even the guy that was in the snowdrift or whatever, the Volkswagen Beetle guy who was having a heart attack, they can't even back up his story. It's full of holes, something like that.
Well, he was in intense pain at the moment.
Right, but it's more of the what do you call it? The validation of where he actually was type stuff. It's all muddled. Nothing makes sense in this story. They all had some kind of learning disability as well, and a lot of people shuck that to oh, they're all mentally handicapped, so obviously they died in the snow. Well, it's not. They weren't even that mentally handicapped. They just had social problems. They weren't. A lot of them were actually very smart and very resourceful. One was even in the army.
Two of them were in the army.
Two of them were in the army, and so they had skills. They had some of them had survival skills, but something caused them to not be able to survive hypothermia, and one died of starvation, right?
Yeah, the guy found in the bed.
The bed, yeah, right next to the food, which that doesn't make any sense. And so I agree with Jerry. Something definitely happened to them, not aliens, but I think someone definitely did come across these guys and cause them to expire.
Is there a difference between a military can opener and a normal can opener?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're this the distinction between how on earth do you tell?
No. In the video, they actually explain why someone who hadn't done a military can opener would actually kind of struggle with it. It's just one long sliver of metal that you have to go for each part of the can. It's not like the rotating can. You're able to just literally put it in your the pocket and just have it. And so, but there were two people that had military experiences that were very fluent with this thing. So them starving for that doesn't make any sense.
Fair enough. That's what stood out to me was the military description of the can.
It was the military can opener the whole time. It refused to open for them. It killed them.
Yep, that's why he starved, because he couldn't open cans.
It was a communist can opener. That's why.
Busted.
A little Red Dawn going on. In Northern California.
Wolverines.
I don't know. I think so basically these guys, they were all excited for this basketball tournament. It says they even like laid out their clothes and told their parents to wake them up. So it doesn't sound like people who would just like want to disappear. But they went to this basketball game up in Chico, and something must have happened there to make or maybe even after the convenience store. And the weirdest thing, I don't know. The weirdest thing to me is like that they saw a lady with a baby.
Yeah.
Like what was going on there?
Well, even like when you're saying like, okay, well, like them driving to Chico was actually not super uncommon because they like one of them had the car and they all were. It's actually kind of sad because these guys like found each other and like were really good friends, and like were able to maintain a cohesive group even like despite their social anxieties and like disabilities. But something that they mentioned was that the guy that was driving apparently is very meticulous in his driving, so he wouldn't just take a like side route. He had it all planned out. He had the maps, and even his parents are like, he hates going places he doesn't know. So for them to just drive off somewhere is completely like out of the norm.
Yeah, they all act out of character from what I've heard.
But you guys know when you're hopped up on burritos and chocolate milk, you're not thinking straight.
That's true. There have been many a night where Joseph's just like, you know what?
Throws caution to the wind, has a burrito, some chocolate milk.
Anything can happen.
Another out of character thing was all the parents agreed that they would have helped people if they were in trouble. So not to help that guy who was having a heart attack is a little weird. The pickup truck getting into like a stranger's pickup truck is weird that they'd be seen in someone else's car. The way they just left the car like with the windows down and everything.
Yeah.
That was the owner would have been more protective, or I don't know if he's the owner of the car, but he's the guy driving.
Yeah.
They said he would have been way more protective of the car.
Like all the actions don't make sense for each person. It's so
Don't
weird.
some people blame the Matthias guy because they never found him?
Because they never found them. Yeah, and I guess he could have gone anywhere after that. I mean, he could be up there just somewhere, and they just haven't found him. And this forest is big, but he also could have just went on the run. He was suffering from schizophrenia, so I don't know. Maybe he heard voices. Yeah, heard voices, and they told him to do something.
I have heard that one, but you also have to like take into effect that all these guys were actually really good in really good shape, and so if one like started attacking somebody, like they'd have the amount of like numbers and force to get somebody off. But I don't know. This is a weird one. Like even after watching all these videos, nothing still makes sense.
You're saying zombies, Thomas.
That's true.
Okay, here's my
California zombies.
Here's my wild theory.
Worse zombies.
My wild theory is they at the game they were talking to someone, and he's like, "Hey, I know where we can find some treasure." And he's like, "Drive up to the mountain with me, and we'll find some treasure." And this man was like a bad guy, but he also had a wife and a baby. So they wanted to go find this treasure. And then the classic thing of not leaving anyone alive after you find the treasure happened. And the guy just took off with his evil family. So
pirates.
Evil family is my theory.
So what you're saying is an evil person from California. Got it.
Yeah.
Makes
they
sense.
found some treasure up in those hills. So that's gonna do it. I think
literally gold in them.
They're gold in them hills.
Any last words on this very weird case? Any way we can connect this to aliens? No.
I mean, despite that you're in California, I mean, you got to be weird anyway. So that's the Texan in me.
These
talking,
aliens.
Yeah, them's aliens.
All right, so that's going to do it for this episode of That's Weird Stuff. Like, subscribe, and notify yourself for even more good stuff to come, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.